A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to welcome you to the 11th episode of the webinar series titled Why Corporate Sector. This webinar series is the 56th webinar of BASL for the year 2025-2026. This webinar series is organized by the Webinars and Legal Symposiums Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Chairman of the Webinars and Legal Symposiums Committee and the President of BASL, Attorney at Law, Mr. Rajiv Amrasurya, the Co-Chairman, Mr. Chatura A. Galhena, the Secretary of BASL, and Mr. Pasindu Silva, Treasurer of BASL, the conveners, co-conveners, and the members of the Webinars and Legal Symposiums Committee of the BASL. I would also like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Executive Committee of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka for all the support and guidance. In today's episode of Why Corporate Sector, we have with us an esteemed guest, Ms. Shalini Samarakodi. Ms. Samarakodi has over 20 years of experience as an attorney at law, out of which over 15 years has been in the corporate sector. She holds an LLB degree from the University of Colombo, Sri Lanka, and a Master of Banking and Financial Services from the University of Melbourne, Australia. She started off her legal career at Samaratna Associates, thereafter joining the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka. After the completion of her master's degree in Melbourne, she worked at the Financial Ombudsman Service in Australia as a dispute resolution officer. After her return to Sri Lanka, she worked in the legal divisions of Sri Lankan Airlines and Orel Corporation. Currently, she is the Group Head of Legal at Imakemi NB Ceylon Limited, a leading pharmaceutical company. I warmly welcome Ms. Shalini Samarakodi to today's session. Without any further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Shahara Herath, who will be the interviewer for today's session. Over to you, Mr. Shahara.
Thank you so much, Vihangi. And once again, on behalf of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, we are more than happy to welcome Ms. Shalini Samarakodi, attorney at law, who has been a pioneer in the field of corporate law in Sri Lanka. And we would like to invite her to share a bit of the wealth of experience and knowledge she has gained over the years with young and aspiring lawyers and also law students who wish to enter or who wish to rise up the corporate ladder within the corporate sector. So once again, as our compeer rightfully stated, the Why Corporate Sector is an initiative of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka in order to provide information and in order to give an insight about opportunities and career progression available in the corporate sector for young lawyers and law students. As you all know, the corporate sector has been growing rapidly in Sri Lanka. There has been more and more laws, regulations which govern the corporate sector. And as a result, the corporate sector has become a very a lucrative field for legal professionals. And now we are more than happy to welcome Ms. Shalini Samarakodi once again. And to begin today's discussion, I would like to firstly ask you now, Mrs. Samarakodi, you have studied at the Colombo University Faculty of Law and then obtained your attorney at law and become an attorney at law. What made you choose corporate sector over regular court practice? What is your story? What motivated you to be in the corporate sector? And also, how did you climb up the corporate ladder to be in this position which you're in now?
Thank you, Shara, for that glowing introduction. You're very generous. And first and foremost, I wish to thank the Bar Association, Mr. Rajiv Amrasurya, the president, Mr. Chatura Galhen as the secretary, and the organizing committee of the webinar and Synopsium committee for having me here, for extending this invitation for me. I'm honored to be here and speaking to this forum today. So to start off, yes, so what happened to me was that I actually entered law college before I entered law faculty, because during the year that I did my A-levels, there was a time lag between entrance to law faculty. So as a result, I ended up being a lawyer before I completed my LLB degree. But I've always wanted to enter the corporate sector. But before entering the corporate sector, I wanted to try and see what the private practice was like. So I started my legal career first at a law firm, Samaratnam Associates, and I learned the basics of practicing at Samaratnam Associates. I went to court every day, got lectured by the members of the judiciary, and did a lot of conveyancing work. Went into the legal, the record rooms, and appeared every day in DCs and Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. And having coming from a legal background, because having two practicing lawyers at home, I always knew I wanted to enter the corporate world, because I knew the challenges of private practice. So as a result, I kept an eye out for opportunities in the corporate world. And so therefore, I first got the opportunity to work at the Securities and Exchange Commission. And that's where I got my first insight into the corporates, the big corporates, the listed companies, and of course, the various projects there sparked my interest in the banking and financial legal sector, which is why I then decided to pursue a master's in banking and financial services law. So then I went to the University of Melbourne to specialize in that area. And afterwards, I got an opportunity to work there in Melbourne at the Financial Ombudsman Service. That is a mediation service. It's an independent mediation service provided for consumers of financial institutions. So I did a lot of mediation work in helping consumers and financial institution service providers to resolve disputes, especially during the global financial crisis. But, they say no place is better than home. So I decided to come back home and returned to Sri Lanka and started looking for work in the corporate sector. And I mainly wanted to enter the banking and financial services field. But I got this opportunity at a bank. And then there was simultaneously, I got an opportunity at Sri Lankan Airlines. And for some reason, I decided instead of pursuing this, my passion for banking and finance, I thought Sri Lankan Airlines, the legal department there would be more exciting. So I decided to join Sri Lankan Airlines. And it is there that I realized that a legal department in a corporate is something like a law firm, exclusively for a company. So your clients are the various divisions of that company. And it is there that I realized, that contract work, advising each division of the company to ensure that the company succeeds and develops and reaches growth is a vital aspect of a lawyer in a corporate sector. And as a corporate lawyer, you enable the company towards its growth and towards realization of its vision. So I worked at Sri Lankan Airlines for several years, and after the birth of my daughter, I decided I want to stay at home for some time. So despite many misgivings and despite a lot of advice on not to take a break, I decided to take a break of a few months. And thereafter, I stayed at home. I became a full-time mom for a period of about 1 year. And afterwards, I started looking for another job. And I got the opportunity to join the manufacturing sector, Oreo Corporation. That is the company which manufactures electrical products. It exports and distributes products, the Orange Electric brand of products, and it also is an exporter of IP outsourcing, and actually one of the largest IT outsourcing companies in Sri Lanka. So there I gained a lot of exposure into IT contracts, into negotiating major contracts, advising various departments of the company, and ensuring that the interest of the company is always protected in terms of trademarks, in terms of labor-related matters, and of course to promote the growth of the company. And thereafter, my current employer is Imakemi and Visinol Limited, which is a pharmaceutical company. So now I've got the opportunity to jump into the pharmaceutical industry, and which is a heavily regulated industry. And once again, as a corporate lawyer, I strive to enable the realization of the company's vision, the realization of growth in a company. So what I would like to say is that business is the engine of growth in a nation, right? Businesses and lawyers perform this vital and very important task of giving that foundation to a company, the initial legal foundation to a company to perform its profit making, to perform its growth, perform its core business. So in that effect, a corporate lawyer's role is vital to any company. So anyway, this is my story.
It's like the oil in the machinery.
It definitely is the oil in the machinery. And we lawyers, corporate lawyers, we are enablers of the growth of a company. I am extremely happy to be in the corporate sector rather than in the private practice, because I feel there's a lot of work that corporate lawyers can do within businesses.
Certainly, and thank you for your insight on underlining the importance of the corporate sector towards country and its national economy, because a lot of people actually think it's actually the government which needs to be in place for a country to develop, or it is the politicians who need to, get their act together to get the country to develop. But rather, it's the private sector who really lifts up.
Shahara, I didn't hear you.
It's
Shahara, I think something happened and I didn't hear your question.
Yeah, am I clear now, or is it still lagging?
I didn't hear your question. Now you're clear, yes.
Okay, okay. So thank you for highlighting the importance of the corporate sector in a national economy. And also, when we talk about the corporate sector, another important aspect is about a challenge, the challenges and you know obstacles a young lawyer might face when joining the corporate sector or when climbing up the corporate ladder. From your experience, can you also discuss about what would be the major challenges or major obstacles a person would face when joining the corporate sector or when climbing up the corporate ladder?
Mm, Well, when joining the corporate sector, in terms of, do you mean in terms of recruitment, the
Yes,
initial step into the corporate
yes,
sector? Okay, so I think first and foremost, in terms of recruitment, um, corporates do require the basic qualifications, to be an attorney at law, to or to have your LLB degree. And now I find there are lots of young lawyers who have master's degrees, either in law itself or in different other specializations, or having MBAs. So these are all added qualifications. But apart from all of that, um, I believe they need a lot of uh, good communication. Good communication skills. They need to hone their good communication skills, um, and they need to also ensure uh, that they are well resourceful and that they're able to go to the ground level and start working. In terms, I would also, because you brought out this recruitment aspect, I would like to touch a few basic requirements, which it may, when it's coming from me, it may sound like it's too basic, but I have seen lots of CVs, I have done lots of interviews, and I think young lawyers need to ensure that their CVs are properly formatted, spell checked, and it has to have original content. There should not be cut, copy, and paste in CVs, because we have seen that. I have seen,
no chat GPT, I guess.
no chat GPT. So even if it is chat GPT, it should be vetted and reviewed prior to being submitted or applied. And even at an interview process, honesty and integrity during that process is very important. If you don't know a question, I think you need to say that you don't know it, because not everyone knows everything. So your interviewing panel would know that. Because if you do try to say, I know it, the next question might actually expose your ignorance. So this is it may sound basic, but I see that as a big challenge, because in interviews, but apart from all of that, um, joining the corporate sector also means that the challenges in the corporate sector is that you need to reconcile our legal learning with the requirements of the business. So when you do enter the corporate sector, that would be a big challenge, reconciling business requirements, because the legal framework is, well, it's not always geared towards new business innovations. So you need to also have that open mind, thinking out of the box attitude, because that can be challenging. And in terms of climbing up that corporate ladder to obtain promotions once you have entered the corporate sector. So you need to ensure you are efficient, you're meeting timely deadlines. These are, of course, basic knowledge, but I sometimes find that people, especially the younger generation nowadays, the millennials, are impatient. So I think patience is important. And also, as I said earlier, resourcefulness. Sometimes it helps to go into a land registry and see how it works there, procedure and the process, so that you know that this is how it works, and nobody can come and then tell you otherwise. So it's good to be at least once or twice as young lawyers. You need to go and do that search. You need to go to the trademark office and do that search. You need to go to the court record room and see how the process works, because that will give you a good grounding when you do go up the corporate ladder, and it'll also make you a resourceful person. I hope I have
certainly. And
addressed your question properly.
yes, I think that was really insightful, especially talking about the realistic practicalities within the corporate sector. And that brings me to the next question, which is so you have been in the corporate sector for quite some time and you have worked in many established, well-recognized companies in Sri Lanka. So do you see that there would be more opportunities for lawyers in the corporate sector in the future? Or, with the arrival of artificial intelligence and, so many non-lawyers, for an example, being experts in the law, would there be less opportunities for legal practitioners in the corporate sector?
AI and ChatGPT is definitely a challenge to us lawyers in the corporate sector, because I think what will happen is AI might generate an agreement which is much better than what is drafted by a corporate lawyer. And any division in a company can enter the requirements and obtain a good agreement or a good agreement draft. But I don't think corporate lawyers would be redundant, because we would still have to, even though AI has generated all these, a good agreement or a good document, we lawyers also help the company in policy decisions, corporate strategy. These requirements, I don't think AI can provide. And even if an AI engine has given a draft, we would still need to review it to ensure that it really suits the corporate culture, the company that you're working for. And I think there's inconsistencies in AI documentation as well. So as a result, I don't think there would be too much of a challenge. But definitely, other divisions and non-legal professionals will generate AI documentation and challenge the lawyers. So in that sense, corporate lawyers need to hone their skills into being more research-oriented to ensure that your skills are as good as AI. But there is also, so corporate lawyers don't only look at documents. There's a lot of advisory services that we do, advising the company in taking certain decisions. For example, if you want to start marketing a product, it is the corporate lawyer that they should come to, the company's legal division to come to, and ensure that the way forward in launching that product, the legal way forward to launch a product, because there would always be a legal framework and a legal basis, and certain licenses that are required, certifications that are required. So that type of advice is given by the company lawyer. So in that sense, I think AI would be just one part of or one aspect in the grand scheme of things. So in that sense, I would say we would still have a lot of opportunity in
And
the corporate.
do you think that AI would rather complement the work of a lawyer to help a corporate lawyer to perform better?
It definitely would. Say giving presentations might be easier because you can probably generate a very good presentation from AI. And of course, letter drafting can be done through AI. So, and of course, legal research would be made much easier, because yes, without AI also we had a lot of information and research at our fingertips. But I think with AI, it would definitely be much more easier to find what we want and to obtain a summary of a legislation, or obtain a summary of case law, would be easier because of it.
Certainly. And next, I would like to come into a very interesting question, which we have not addressed in previous Y corporate sector sessions. Now, in my view, I think a lawyer is merely not an officer of court only. He has a much wider responsibility in leading policy change, in leading law reform, in in ensuring rule of law in the country. Now, when we come to the corporate environment, the corporate sector is also widely evolving. Now, the corporates are looking more and more into their employees' rights. The corporate sector is working more and more into the mental well-being of their employees. Now, the corporate sector is taking measures, even without regulation, to ensure that their business is ethical. So some companies even advertise that our business is ethical business. We don't do animal testing, or we don't exploit labor, etc., etc. And new concepts are coming forward. Like, for an example, certain companies might promote the concept of paternity leave to ensure that a child, gets both the mother's attention and the father's attention, right after birth, so that the responsibility doesn't fall solely on the mother. And there could be new initiatives by corporations beyond the legal regulations to protect the environment, to ensure that their production processes do not harm the environment. So could you also explain whether a lawyer can actually take leadership in such initiatives? And, do you think that, a corporate lawyer, rather than just, sticking by their job description and, the law given by the country, they also need to play a more activist role?
Yes. So corporate lawyers are not simply churning out agreements or only giving advice. I think now corporate lawyers are taking an active role in formulating corporate policies within the company policies. So as you said about sustainable practices, about anti-bribery and corruption practices, and leave in terms of labor-related work. Corporate lawyers are setting an example as well within the corporate. It's I think previously, maybe, or at least I think the perception is a corporate lawyer probably sits in the office and just typing out agreements and being very serious. Yes, we are very serious, but we also do promote the company towards ethical practices. For example, the paternity leave, I must say that even at Invakemi, we have 2 days of paternity leave. And I think that's because statute doesn't provide, if their statute doesn't provide for certain regulations and best practices which are recognized and practiced globally, corporates can introduce those best practices into the company. And it can be the role of a corporate lawyer to suggest and advise the company on what best practices to adopt in terms of, as you say, environment, in corporate social responsibility, within the framework of the law, whatever best practices and standards that the world over are practiced can be introduced by corporate lawyers. And as you rightfully pointed out, a lawyer within the corporate sector plays that vital role. So in a sense, to lobby the management of the company to introduce particular policies to, as you said, to not test on animals if you're a manufacturing company. Ensure that your effluents are recycled prior to it being let out into the environment. These are just examples, but of course, it is a vital role of a lawyer. And also corporate strategy, marketing strategies, and advertising strategies. These can always be advised by a lawyer instead of just sitting there and doing your agreements. A lawyer does take it setting as well.
Certainly. And also, now I would like to go back into an extension of something we already discussed. Now, you you already stated, you have been through a lot of interviews where your company would have recruited new legal officers, and you must have also been in the decision-making process of promoting an attorney at law within the company. So are there any specific attributes or qualities or practices which you would expect a potential, a potential employee who wishes to join the corporate sector to have, in addition to the education qualifications? Or are there any specific attributes or any specific things which you look at from the eyes of a in the eyes of a corporate leader to promote a person to a higher position?
I think we touched on this briefly before. Apart from the basic qualifications, I think a lot of the person has to show a lot of dedication to the task, to their job responsibilities. Hard work, dedication to whatever project that is given to them. And of course, honesty and integrity in your work ethic, and showing resourcefulness, thinking out of the box, showing that you can think out of the box. These are attributes which are required. And another aspect which is very important, is strong communication skills and very good language skills in not only in the mother tongue but also in English as well. It is very important to be able to communicate well, especially if it is a company which deals with foreign stakeholders, foreign partners, because it is in any event a challenge to deal with, to negotiate with foreign partners, because different ideologies, different cultures. There are language barriers also there, but it is a challenge initially when you join the corporate sector to liaise with and interact with foreign stakeholders. So in such an instance, strong communication skills matter a lot. Showing that you can also work in a team is also important in a
I
corporate
think
sector.
that will be one of the fundamental differences between going to courts and being in a corporate setting, because when you're a lawyer working in court, sometimes you just have to work on your own terms by yourself. But when you're in the corporate sector, you would have to work with a team of people with a collective objective.
You're correct. Because in the corporate sector, there are different divisions in each company. You have the finance division, the marketing division, and you have to work together with those professionals because they are also experts and professionals in their own fields. And you have to interact with them, liaise with them, and come to that middle ground on working on a project. So it is important. You can't forge ahead by yourself. It is important that you obtain their advice in their respective expertise and then proceed with your project. Even if it is a contract, you have to obtain the input of so many other divisions, operational teams, the financial teams, and then incorporate all of that into your document. And in that sense, teamwork and working towards timelines and deadlines becomes very important. Apart from your own skill, which has to be honed and which has to be practiced, in the sense you can't just hope to only know what was taught in law college or in your degree, because that is actually sorry to say this, but it's only when you're starting to work, when you start work, that you realize what you learned in law college was just the basic, very minimalistic sort of knowledge. So you need to you need to do your own research, you need to be hardworking. And in promoting a person, your seniors will see that. Your seniors can understand whether this person is a hard worker or not, whether this person is able to work in a team environment or not. And that would go into that consideration of promotions within the corporate ladder.
Certainly. And I would also like to discuss something which is gender equality in the corporate sector. So since you're a lady lawyer yourself, do you see that the corporate sector in Sri Lanka has achieved gender equality, as a whole? And particularly when it comes to corporate lawyers, do you think that there is a lady lawyer entering the corporate sector has more challenges than a gent?
I think lady lawyers in the corporate sector, I think have a better, they are better placed than in the private bar, because I see there are a lot of lady lawyers in the corporate sector, and not only lady lawyers, but generally gender inclusivity is considered in corporates, because there's a conscious decision from corporate to ensure that ensure gender equality. So as a result, I think it's much easier in the corporate sector as a woman lawyer. There is a lot of flexibility also in the corporate sector. We have the leave requirements. We have the maternity leave benefits. Those requirements are I wouldn't say geared towards, but those requirements help gender equality and lady lawyers to, I think, be more comfortable in a corporate setting rather than in a private practice setting. Because I think in the private practice setting, late hours in terms of consultations can be a hindrance. But in the corporate setting, at least you have the 9 to 5 working hours, which helps a lot in terms of your personal commitment. But also, as I said before, there's a conscious effort by the companies for reducing gender bias. But of course, in Sri Lanka, we still I think we still haven't reached that gender equality level. Our boardrooms don't have enough female representation. And our senior management doesn't have enough female representation. But it also depends on each field. Certain industries don't have a lot of females, and certain industries in the corporate sector do have a lot of females. I can say that in the pharmaceutical industry, there's a very limited number of females. But it's also because of the nature of the work. Even in the electrical manufacturing industry, there was very less females. But in terms of corporate lawyers, that's it. The industry really doesn't matter, because as a corporate lawyer, you are working 9 to 5. There may be times when you're working beyond those hours due to certain exigencies of the work, but there is room for growth in terms of gender equality, definitely room for growth. But it also depends on a lot of personal choices that females make, personal choices that female lawyers make. See, even in my case, I did make that personal choice to stay at home for a short time, but I always wanted to get back into the workforce, and I was fortunate enough to return to the workforce. But there may be people who have decided not to. So these are personal choices that people make. But if you do return to the workforce, I think corporates also, there's a lot of dialogue between the senior management, and flexible working hours and requirements can be discussed now, because I think corporates are more flexible now rather than, say, pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, I think corporates were rather strict, but after COVID, we have all realized that we can work from home, and it doesn't matter whether you are at work and working from an office or working from home, because sometimes as corporate lawyers, we can work. So there is a lot of areas for growth in terms of gender equality. but it's not all that bad.
Yes, certainly. And I hope that, in the years to come, that we would see more women in director boards of companies and also in positions of CEO. With that
I hope
thought, I
so
would
too.
certainly. And with that, I would like to move on to our final question this evening. What is your final message as a lawyer who has been in the corporate sector and also has a bit of practice in courts, for someone who has served in many companies in prestigious positions, or someone who has been an inspiration for young corporate lawyers to get into the corporate field and also to rise up the corporate ladder. There'll be many young lawyers who would be watching this episode on live on Zoom, and also most of our viewers are usually on our YouTube once this is posted on YouTube. What is your message to them, for the young lawyers and the law students, and even prospective law students who are even thinking about doing the law entrance exam and becoming a lawyer in the future and then getting into the corporate sector? What is your message to them?
Lawyers are enablers of businesses in terms of laying that legal foundation to a business. So in that sense, look at corporate lawyers as vital to a business, very important to a business. And what corporate lawyers do can't necessarily be seen by all employees of a company, because it's actually behind the scenes work. Yet, it enables the business to focus on its main business area without worrying about the legal framework. So also another aspect which I would like to touch upon is that you must ensure that if you are into the corporate world, ensure that you are ethical and that you remember to be honest, and ensure that the legal framework, that whatever your advice that you mete out should be within that legal framework, but be an enabler of the business and not be a hindrance to the business, to ensure that the business proceeds and develops in a manner that is sustainable, in a manner that helps the growth of that business. And I think finally, if it is for a law student, a corporate sector may not be the court drama that you envision, but there is a lot of activity, a lot of service that you can do within the corporate sector as well, because it is vital for a business, for the economy of the country, to be a corporate lawyer.
Yes, and with that, we would like to conclude today's webinar on why corporate sector. And once again, on behalf of the President, the Executive Committee, and the membership of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, I would like to thank Ms. Shalini Samarakwadi, Attorney at Law, for sharing, her experience and her knowledge with all us young lawyers here and also law students. Once again, I would like to thank the webinars committee of the Bar Association for organizing this timely webinar.
Thank you,
Thank you
Shahara.
very much, Shahara.
Thank you, Shahara. This brings us to the end of episode 11 of the webinar series on why corporate sector. I thank our esteemed guest, Ms. Shalini Samarakwadi and Mr. Shahara Herath, for the fruitful and educational discussion and for dedicating your time to be here with us and sharing your insights. I thank the Bar Association of Sri Lanka Webinars and Legal Symposiums Committee for their dedication and hard work in organizing this insightful webinar. And last but not least, I would like to thank our audience who have joined us for this session today through various platforms, and for the interactive discussions that we have had. Thank you, and I hope you all have a good night.